Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Heat Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Butts, here with the legendary Brad Menendez. Are you telling me no?
Your audio sounding all jacked up.
My audio sounds all jacked up.
Now it sounds better.
Now it sounds
All of a
better.
sudden, yeah, all of a sudden you were like,
Uh,
and then it was real quiet.
it's probably your internet hamster not running fast enough. I don't know. I didn't change anything other than hit record. Um,
During the football flying by, your started happening.
uh, okay, well,
I'll try it again, and then you just chop it off.
what a start. Um, yeah, we'll go ahead and start that over. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Heat Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Butts, here with the legendary Brad Menendez. Today, we are going to be talking about OBJ, Darius Slayton, Ronald Jones. And I know, for those of you out there that know me, I know you want to hear my opinion on Ronald Jones. We are going to be talking about. I did a little research in the leagues that I am in, and most of them I run. But I did some research, and I wanted to see how these super studs have been impacting fantasy rosters so far in 2011. Guys like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Jones. These are four of the guys, and I'm going to do a deeper dive when I have a little more time. But these are four of the guys that have really been propelling uh, teams and putting fantasy points out there. So I wanted to see like how many of the top teams in our leagues had these guys on the roster. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of info on that and how important it is to have one of these guys, or is it not important at all? So that's a lot of the stuff that we're going to do. We are a night early this week. Brad's got some family stuff to attend to, so tomorrow wasn't going to work. So we decided to just move it up a day instead of canceling. And as always, if you're watching, if you're on Twitch, please hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe and notification bell. If you're on Facebook, we have the different groups. We have Redraft, Dynasty, DFS. All you got to do is search RotoHeat, and all of them will come up. Andrew, he asked about thoughts on OBJ. We are going to talk about OBJ today, so go ahead and hang in there, and we will talk about him. And first, Brad, news and notes. What do we have from Week 10 of importance going forward?
Well, it's all perspective. Jets placed Chris Herndon on IR. Poor guy just couldn't seem to bounce back after the suspension, kept getting hurt. So for you Herndon fans, you ain't going to see him this year. Now, for those of you looking to buy him, this might be a great time to go get him, seeing as he showed nothing. Also, AJ Green during workouts last weekend, and they're still trying to kind of nurse him back to health, whatever that means. So for those of you that might to play him this weekend, be careful. Definitely check in with Rick Sunday morning on the live stream before you go inserting him into your lineups.
So they real quick,
Freed, Okay, go ahead.
they didn't put him back on IR, so he may actually play this week.
Potential. They haven't put him on IR as of yet. I'm checking the news out now as we're going through to make sure, and I don't see him on IR anymore.
Okay, well that would be nice in a couple spots for me.
Yeah, I'm in a couple spots, but I've set my lineups without him, and I have to go back
I
and
don't mean
change
for
them.
this week, but I mean just if he can get back on the field, so then I can move him.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Devonta Freeman looks to be out around 2 weeks from that foot injury. So those of you that are banking on, better hit the trade market. He's not going to help you. Let's see. The only other big news was the Tyler Lockett injury hasn't been confirmed yet, but it does appear to be fairly significant. So those of you that have DK and Josh Gordon and some of those guys, they'll certainly be more playable because those targets will be flying around to those guys and maybe even some of the others, David Moore and things like that.
Emmanuel
What
Sanders on
else
the
did we?
other side of that with his rib injury.
Yeah, I haven't heard how long. So they were last I checked, they were still trying to determine how severe it was.
Yeah, so it's
I'll
so
shoot
funny
something.
because I swear if I trade for a guy, and one specific league that I'm in, and it's a $250 league, and I swear if I trade for a player, he is bound to get hurt or suspended right away. And it drives me nuts, but literally just this week, I traded for Emmanuel Sanders and Tevin Coleman. I am in a I was in a position to where I could have closed the gap on the leader of the league, and all three of I had Lockett, Sanders, and Coleman going last night, and they all shit the
Oh,
bed, and
oh,
it hurts. It hurts, but that is what it is. But yeah, Manny Sanders, like he's so important to that offense. So they really need him to get back because that offense is completely different when he's on the field. But your boy Debo looked really good last night as well.
looking good. He was like a tank, just running through people. I was very excited about that. But yeah, I mean, Debo looks for Sanders. I mean, it looks a lot different, and it really does put a lot more pressure on them. And obviously, they didn't win, so that hurts even more. There are two other injuries I forgot to mention. The Austin Hooper knee
Yes.
injury is a sprained MCL. He's expected to miss multiple weeks. And then Matthew Stafford hasn't been put on IR, but he's got a fracture in his back. So this is a very similar injury to what he had last year. So even if he does play, I would anticipate it being a little more painful for your fantasy lineups if you're starting him. So those are two injuries to keep an eye on. Other than that, I haven't come out.
Still waiting on a little news. It seems like the Saquon injury wasn't
Wasn't
severe,
severe from what I've seen.
but they may choose to hold him out for a week, just because like they don't need to do anything. There's no reason to risk him getting hurt at this point. Um, PJ, what's going on,
They're
buddy?
what's up, PJ? I'm refreshing NFL trade rumors, and Broncos did designate Drew Lock to return from IR, so he's available as of I think this week to start practicing. And then obviously Dwayne Haskins will be the starter for the remainder of the year. That was also reported today.
And
So, or yes,
Will Fuller returned to practice for the Texans. For those of you guys that like plugging in that boomer bust wide receiver. Um, I'll tell you what, that Marcus Peters trade for the Ravens has worked out pretty damn well so far.
well, that and the Minka Fitzpatrick to the Steelers deal, both of those have been huge for those
Yeah,
teams.
I was thinking about Baltimore just because that's who the Texans play. Because I was looking at that Will Fuller matchup this week,
That'll be a tough
but
one.
what he's in 3 games, he's had a interception return for a touchdown in 2 of them. It's yeah, pretty good stuff for the Rams trading off their guys and then they busting out.
Yeah. Well, on the Minka Fitzpatrick on the other side, the Pittsburgh,
That
he's got 5 interceptions in like 6 games. It's like ridiculous.
yeah, that deal. But we knew Minka was good, right? Like we knew Minka
It's a bad
Fitzpatrick
team.
was good.
Yeah.
The difference was, Marcus Peters. We didn't like. He'd always been underwhelming, kind of, but
Mm-hmm.
he's played really well. So um,
Sure.
I'm tagging a few more guys. No, PJ, you did not miss the OBGYN.
You know me.
You did not miss the OBJ take. Damn, we should have got Anthony on here tonight. He said he was available tonight. Should have got him on here.
Anthony Leone. Oh, miss spending time with him. Just got to stare at him through the YouTubes.
Right? I mean, we can still throw him on here if he wants to get on here. We can make that happen. We can make magic happen here at RotoHeat. Um, I'm tagging a few more people, trying to get some chat going on in here. Why don't we go ahead and break right into this Ronald Jones talk, okay? And I'm gonna let you start this up because everybody knows where I stand on Ronald Jones. But the question that the group was asking is Ronald Jones taking over this starter job, or did he fumble it away the other day? Um, you know, I'll just let you take this one to start, and then I'll jump in and we'll talk about it a little bit.
We know everybody in the world how you feel about him. I don't necessarily think that he fumbled the job away. I mean, you know, Peyton Barber isn't bad, but you punch. I think if anybody's going to get the most out of Ronald Jones, it's Bruce Arians. I'm not comparing him to David Johnson, but Bruce Arians is good at taking rough players and helping make them better in some senses. David Johnson coming out of college or coming out of college in the pro game wasn't highly touted. I mean, guys like Amir Abdullah went ahead of him, and I think, and Bruce Arians really, his system is very friendly to running backs. I mean, to offensive players in general. I'm not a huge. I've agreed with you. I'm not a huge Ronald Jones fan, but I'm a huge Bruce Arians fan. So if a Bruce Arians running back is available, like I have a couple of Ronald Jones shares, and I won't. They're not starters. I mean, they're like down the job away. But I would anticipate Tampa Bay in the future, even next year, getting a running back at some point, whether it's in the draft or free agency. I mean, because neither one of these guys is like it, even 2 to 3 years down the road. The thing about Ronald Jones is that his game needs to get better. His speed can only get him so far. It's like speed only gets you to a certain part. You can't teach, but he can't seem to learn anything else. Like he doesn't know how to hit the holes well. He
His
catches
vision
okay.
is horrible.
I know it. So if he can fix some of these things that I would think would be trainable. I mean, obviously, I'm not a running backs coach, but speed would be the only thing he can't teach, and that's the only thing that guy seems to have.
Yeah. Okay. This dude, PJ said it in the chat. This dude gets tackled way too easily. Okay. Everybody wants to blame Tampa Bay's offensive line. They run seven. No, it's not terrible. It's not nearly as bad as the Rojo defenders make it out to be. It's not nearly that bad. Okay, plus they run 70% of their plays to the strength of their offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And this dude cannot see a hole if it had a flashing light in it. Like, he is not, his vision is horrible. If he can, okay, the other thing is everybody wants to make it out, all his defenders want to make it out like, oh, but he's such a good pass catcher out of the backfield. I believe after his 8 catches the other day, he has 16 on the season. I could be wrong. I'm going to look that up before I go any further with that. I believe that after the 8 catches he had in that game the other day, which is where his production came from, because he was 11 carries for 29 yards because he's not a good runner.
He's got 16 catches so far on the season for 200 yards, averaging 12 yards a catch.
He literally, I mean, Anthony just said it. The wind will blow this dude over. Right. He gets tackled way too easily. And I said it when he came out, right? When he played at USC, there were holes that you could drive a semi-truck through. And when this dude could outrun college players, he can't outrun NFL players. His longest run on the year, he's got over 100 carries. His longest run on the year is 25 yards. I think there's only been 2 games that he has had a 20-yard rush in. There's only 2 games where he had an average better than 4 yards. Been multiples where he's been under 3.5. multiples where he's been under 3. This dude is not a good running back. He is going to be replaced next year. Like, they have to improve their running back. You can't blame the offensive line anymore. The offensive line has not played horrible. Not, it's not great. It's middle of the pack, but you can't blame the offensive line for this running game. And here's the thing: everybody and every Ronald Jones truther wants to talk about how bad they've always wanted to talk about how bad Peyton Barber was. If he can't beat Peyton Barber out for more than a 50-50 share, then Ronald Jones isn't good at running the ball either. Now, if he can take that pass catching that he did the other day, if he might be able to turn into that pass catching running back and do more of that, he's never going to be a good runner. And now is your time to sell if you have him in a spot. Now's the time to sell because and maybe he might do okay and score some fantasy points for a couple weeks, especially if he's catching the ball like this and they utilize him more like that. He's never going to be a third down running back. I want nothing to do with him. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. I have a couple shares of him just because he was throw-ins on deals. I mean, he was never a guy that I really cared one way or the other about. Like, I was never like super excited about, and I was never super. He doesn't infuriate me like he infuriates you. Like, I'll take a shot on him for a little while and see what happens.
he doesn't see. I mean, I don't believe in coaches being able to turn somebody into from a shitty football player into a good NFL player. Um, if you can't run the ball, you can't run the ball, and you can't teach toughness, which I think he lacks. But my thing is, it's not even like if you like Ronald Jones, that's fine, but you can't make up every excuse in the book for him. You know, it gets to a point where you want to blame everybody else. It's everybody else's fault that this guy's not good. In the discussion the other day, it was, Arians doesn't give him enough touches. Why are you giving a guy touches when he's not productive? No coach is going to do that. Like, if you're not productive, you're not getting touches.
Right.
The offensive line's fault. Well, the offensive line, they're one of the few teams in the NFL that their adjusted yards are negative. Most teams, their running backs get
Mhm.
more than the adjusted lines. Tampa Bay is one of the few that's negative. These running backs for Tampa Bay are not good, and Tampa Bay needs a running game now. They need a quarterback too, but that's beside the point. But if they can improve the running game and quarterback play, they've got the weapons in the passing game. I mean, OJ Howard, finally had a game the other day. Mike Evans is a monster. Chris Godwin's really good. They need to improve this. I think they're going to. Let's move on. Darius Slayton. I'm a little bitter because in a matchup that I really needed to win this week, the opponent throws in a guy like Darius Slayton, and he goes off for 30 plus. Um, really broke my heart. Not that Darius Slayton's not good, but you don't expect him to put up 30 plus points on you. Um, but I feel like this situation is kind of like the DJ Shark situation early in the season. Not that they're not good, but we're going to see inflated values for these guys for a couple weeks. Well, I mean, we're going to see that for Slayton for a couple weeks until he comes back down to earth, and then people are going to be like, "Oh man, I wish I wouldn't have paid that price for him." Um, what are your thoughts on Darius Slayton, and do you think he can maintain value if Sterling Shepard gets back on the field? And Evan Ingram. I mean, they were missing both of those guys this week.
I the tough thing for me with Slayton is, and I was telling Sully in one of our chats, like I had him in my starting lineup this week just because Ingram and Shepard were out, and then I switched him out because I just didn't trust the matchup very well. So it burned me the opposite way of you, as I should have played him when I didn't. He was never very flashy at Auburn, so when they picked him up, I was like, oh, okay, well, they have very little at wide receiver, so it makes sense that that this kid will get a chance. He's looked better in the pro game than he did in college. I mean, in college, I don't think he ever really had any gaudy. Yeah, I'm looking now. He never really had any gaudy numbers in production, and he was in the SEC, which is going against mostly NFL caliber talent. So he wasn't really showing out when he had an opportunity. And looking who he had to fight for targets. Yeah, I mean, I was never a big Slayton fan. I have him in a couple spots just because I picked him up on waiver wires as a depth guy, but this would be the point where I'd sell him. Like I wouldn't keep him long term because the Giants are going to add help. I mean, Sterling Shepard is their top receiver. Good kind of get you, chunk yardage, move the chains. Evan Ingram is hurt a lot, but he's still sweet. I mean, he's still a very good, talented tight end. So I got to think they add talent. Obviously they have big holes on the offensive line and on the defense. So maybe he sticks around for another couple seasons, but I wouldn't bank on him being anything special.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't necessarily like. I don't think that he is not talented. I think he's proving that he has some talent, but I don't know. Like, you're not going to rely on him as your number one when you don't have to. Um, and he's going to be back to fifth on the pecking order if Saquon's healthy when Ingram and Shepard are back on the field, because it's going to be Shepard, Ingram, Golden Tate, and Saquon Barkley. Those are going to be their four main guys. Slayton goes back to being behind those guys. Um, and but you are right. Ingram and Shepard both have problems staying on the field. That could open it up a little bit for him, but he's definitely, I think, at peak value. I think if you hear if Ingram's going to be out again, well, they have a bye this week, right? So if Ingram and Shepard are going to be out again, then maybe after week 12, will be maybe his value will be a little bit higher. But I think
Mm,
right now is a good time to sell, and you got him for nothing. You
right.
didn't pay a premium price. You can turn that profit and turn it into something that's going to help you more long term, I think. So that's him. Now, the third guy, and we've got a fourth guy we're going to talk about a little bit, but the third guy was OBJ. Now, this whole situation isn't really OBJ's fault. Obviously, play calling has been horrendous for Cleveland. Uh,
Hmm.
Quarterback play has been horrendous for Cleveland. Is there an opportunity for that to improve down the stretch here for playoff runs in fantasy? Because I
No.
think I think that what most people are wondering is, do I trade OBJ and get somebody that can help me? Or other people might be thinking, can I buy OBJ low and him help me down the stretch? So that was kind of what I was thinking people were asking on OBJ. So you already said no. Why don't you?
Well, they face Pittsburgh 2 out of the next 3 weeks, and depending on when your playoffs start, I mean, Pittsburgh's defense is very very tough right now, and they're playing very well. I just don't trust it enough. If I was an OBJ owner and you were trying to do something so you could get a ship now, trying to move him. I mean, I would like to keep him long term because he's still young and he's a very talented receiver, and you got to think that they'll turn things around in Cleveland, but I'm not trusting it this year, that's for sure. What about you?
Man, it is tough. For one, when it comes to Odell Beckham, like, I don't care about matchup, right? I don't care what cornerback's on him. He can make stuff happen. I don't care.
Yeah, I just don't
Right, and
trust
that's
the
where it
offense right
comes
now.
to, for one, Freddie Kitchens. The fact that he's still got a job, it's beyond me. I think this guy is terrible. He is probably the worst coach in the NFL right now, in my opinion. Um, I wish something was different in Cleveland, because I was so happy for Odell to get out of New York and from beyond uh, Eli's
Yeah, but think of
Yes.
him with Daniel
Dude,
Jones. He'd probably be like
I was getting
insane.
ready to say we just talked about Slayton having success in New York right now, and we're looking at Odell, and I'm sorry, like I would love to blame it on Odell, but how like let's be honest, like when you look at Odell Beckham Jr. and you look at Allen Robinson, like who has had more horrible quarterback play in their careers? Like it's so bad. And they're both so good, and I feel bad for both of them that the quarterback play in their careers has just been horrendous between Blake Bortles, Eli Manning, you know, Trubisky this year and Baker Mayfield this year, just horrendous. Um, it's very unfortunate. I'm not relying on him if I'm in a playoff push. If I could trade him and get somebody more reliable, I would do that if I feel like it makes me a serious contender. I'm not trading Odell Beckham low if it doesn't. See, and that's where the sell high, buy low comes into play. Um,
Right.
Sometimes you have to sell low on guys if you're in a have a chance to win a ship. You might have to bite that bullet, but
Hmm.
that's the only time that it's worth doing. Um, I just it's so tough. And Paul says Adam Gase is still a coach. I agree, but I think Kitchens is worse than Gase. I
It's
mean,
been bad.
and plus this year, like it's hard to figure out Gase how much is on him when Darnold was out and you have Luke Falk at quarterback. Like it's hard to see. I mean, really, honestly, if we're talking about Adam Gase, like he has not had much talent on his teams as a head coach between Miami and then when Darnold was out. Um,
Right.
so that I think Freddie Kitchen. I mean, he had all the talent on paper. People were calling this team a Super Bowl contender, and we knew that the Jets were going to struggle. Um, but I mean, they ran this Browns team straight into the ground. It's not good.
And that's the thing that I don't understand is how. So when you look at the makeup of things, when they let what's his name go last year, and Kitchens took over, or Greg Williams took over as the interim coach, the offense looked a lot better and moved a lot better. It just doesn't make sense to me. And even when I've analyzed, I've just rewatched Browns games this year to try to understand what the heck is going on. Like it seems like a little bit of everything. Like not any one person. It's kind of a culmination of things each week that screw them out of wins and make them worse than they are. What's going on? But ultimately, it falls on the coach. Kitchens can't get this thing straight with all this talent. Then you got to go.
Dude, his play calling's just been atrocious too. Like there's just
My Kareem Hunt shares were all right last week.
Kareem Hunt's. I'm telling. I've been saying it. Like it's really odd, right? Like we have a lot of guys that get injured and they miss a year, and their value doesn't really change. We have a guy
Right.
that was suspended, didn't have any injury, didn't we don't have concerns about his
Made
body and
stupid
everything like
moves.
that. And all of a sudden, this dude doesn't have any value. Like I have Kareem Hunt everywhere, and he's not going to help a ton this year. Not on the top end of his skill, but this dude is going to be a primary running back next year. He is that good.
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
had him in the top 36 of my rankings the entire time he's been suspended. There's no reason to drop him out and drop his value that much, and a lot of people did. So hopefully, a lot of people went out and bought him cheap. I held him everywhere. There was no way I was selling him.
Yeah, I tried to trade for him in a lot of spots. That's kind of
He
what I
is
did.
he is so good, and that duo going down the stretch with him catching the ball, it's that's going to be fine. And when he gets back, I mean, somebody Tampa Bay should look at Kareem Hunt next year.
Oh, that'd be disgusting.
Yeah, that would be awesome if he went to Tampa Bay. Um,
Chicago gets a real head coach, so then my running back group would be Kareem Hunt, David Montgomery. Oh, that made me
yeah,
so
that
excited.
would be nice. Um, okay, we had. Well, you know what? There actually is. we've been talking about, we talked a little bit about this last week. I want to know. I want to know what people think. I think that Kenyon Drake might be a better running back right now than David Johnson is.
I think in that offense, he certainly looks better right now. But I wonder if the injury is still keeping David Johnson hampered because even when he came back in, he didn't look like it looked like he was still a little hesitant.
Yeah, I just,
So,
I think we talked about it a little bit last week. After Kenyon Drake's first game with them, I went back and looked. Like, it had been 2 years since David Johnson had a game like that. And I just don't know that he's got it anymore. And obviously um, you can have a big game here and there. Everybody does, that gets touches, but I just I don't I think if you had David Johnson, you missed your sell window, and you're probably riding him down with the ship. I wouldn't. I'm not buying into this. We're talking 2 years of data, and he played almost every game last year. He just doesn't have it like he did in 2016, when he broke out. I'm not. I don't know. I'm just not convinced that he hasn't been hampered too much or whatever it is. We know how running backs can fall off a cliff. I feel like David Johnson did, and I mean, this dude was, I think I saw the box score at one point. Like, he had 4 or 5 carries for -4 yards at one point in that game the other day. I don't know, man. These Edmonds and Drake in back to back, well, 2 out of 3 weeks had games that David Johnson has not even sniffed for 2 years.
well, and I also wonder if these systems and the kind of the fast paced system that they're running now maybe too much for David Johnson. Like Edmonds and Drake both are a little bit different type of running back than Johnson, so he might just not be in the right system for what he does as well. I mean, I'm not saying he is or isn't, but David Johnson's not a generational type talent. Like Saquon could play in any system. I mean, he can't block anybody, so he's still, he's not a pass protector, but you know, he's,
If
so
I don't
that
know,
would be
man. If
my
we would have
concern.
went back to when David Johnson broke out, and we would have then looked forward and said David Johnson's going to play in this offense, I'd have been like, hell yeah, I'll take David Johnson in that offense. It has not worked out that way. I don't know, man. I I don't know. I don't think this guy's got it like he used to. Um, this dude used to be electric. Yeah, I don't understand how Paul says that this offense isn't running back friendly. Huge weeks by Edmonds and Drake would kind of go against that theory.
Well, but it's a specific type of running back. I mean, like I was talking about, like I don't know that David Johnson fits this offense.
I would have thought he did. Why doesn't he? I guess that's my question.
When I've watched him since his first wrist injury was it last year. The way that it's almost like he's trying to protect himself from getting another wrist injury.
Okay,
Like the way
okay.
that he's,
So it's not the
I know me
offense.
and my injury
Well, no, no,
business. I
no,
know,
no, no,
I
no.
know.
But I'm saying that's not the offense, though.
No,
Like,
no, not
the
necessarily. It's
wrist
the
doesn't
player.
change, his skill. Like, this was a guy that you got in open field, which I feel like this offense is all about, is getting your weapons in the open field. And he just doesn't have that electric second gear that he used to have, or third gear. This dude used to blow people away, and he's not doing that. Like, he was so dynamic, and I just don't see it. But my point was is that how does a wrist injury like alter a player that much? Like, he did it with his legs and everything. Like, that's what I guess worries me. Like, I don't know why he's not electric like that anymore. Um,
Well, and some of it goes back to the mental game. I mean, obviously different sport, but think about Chuck Knobloch. I mean, how do you go from being a talented second baseman to a guy that can't throw it to first? The mental game is very much a part of it in the NFL as well. I wonder what's going on in David Johnson's head sometimes. Since these because he keeps having reoccurring injuries, if maybe he's trying to protect himself.
Oh,
I don't know.
I'm definitely not.
He doesn't look good in this offense, that's for sure.
Well, I'm definitely not saying that that's not the case. I was just saying, like, I don't get um, how we can blame the offense when this guy is a guy that I would have thought was the perfect fit for this offense when he was doing, you know, the DJ stuff. But he's not. I don't know, man. I'm not. It could be injuries. It could be his back, like Anthony says. Whatever it is, like if it's his back, then this dude's almost done anyway. Like if his back is that
Back.
bad, we talk a lot about how being you know too overly concerned about injuries can hurt you because guys can come back from a lot of stuff. I mean, we see Emmanuel Sanders running around like a 25-year-old wide receiver after a year where we thought he might be done forever. Um,
Right. There was
so,
concern. He came back
but
early.
here's the thing, you don't just you'll never hear anybody say I used to have a bad back.
No, it doesn't go anywhere.
No, I was told at 20 that I should have back surgery and that I would need it every 10 years for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
No, thank you then. If it's not gonna fix it, so if it's his back, like Anthony's saying in the chat, then this dude, you need to get out now, or hope he has one more game and get out. If that's a
Okay,
serious
right now
concern,
he's not worth a lot.
right? Right now is not yeah. But anyways, so Todd Gurley. I was a big defender of Todd Gurley. Um, but the usages went down. We haven't heard this dude's injured, this dude's this. Like on the touches he's getting, he's been fine, but he hasn't been getting Todd Gurley touches. Um, I think that the Rams have to figure out here down the stretch, like is saving Todd Gurley more important than us winning? Because when we use Todd Gurley, we win. We rely less on Jared Goff, and that helps our offense. I think that's a big decision for them to make here going down the stretch. What are your thoughts on Todd Gurley?
Man, the Rams need to get it together, dude. This whole offense I know that their offensive line is brutal. I mean, it's not good. But they don't even look like they're trying to make people think they're going to run the ball. And that's a concern of mine. Like, even if Todd Gurley isn't 100% and you're trying to be careful, at least act like you're going to run the ball. I mean, there's a lot of shotgun sets they're running, and, teams just weren't afraid of the run. And when the teams aren't afraid of the run, and you're already down Brandon Cooks, they shut down Cooper Kupp. I mean, this offense just doesn't look like it. They really need to get back to what they do: run to set up the pass. And Todd Gurley doesn't appear to be any normal. I mean, you don't see him walking gingerly. I mean, it just seems like they're just not doing what they should.
I mean, that's my thought watching them. Obviously, you know, his efficiency looks like it's down, but as you talk, this is an offensive line that hasn't played well. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Oh,
we're seeing a lot less usage in the passing game um, than I would have thought, and they have always used that as an extension to the running game. With Todd Gurley, and he's a threat to break anything open. Just looking at his efficiency, you can see that it's down, but the usage is way down. So what is really the issue here? Is it that their offense is really that less effective? Um, and if they use him more, can that help with everything else, as you said? Utilizing that running game and getting into um, the passing game. You know, I don't know. I really thought that Todd Gurley was going to be used more. Um, we haven't heard all the stuff about the knee, and I'm less worried about arthritis in his knee than I am, David Johnson's back.
Right.
Um, so this is going to come down to me. It's going to be. I think he's a decent buy low target if you're going into uh, a playoff run, because this is a guy that can literally transform your roster, your fantasy roster, if he gets that usage. Um, he's still averaging over 4 yards a carry. Um, with a bad line, if he gets more active in the passing game, he's got like or he's got like a quarter of the targets that you would expect him to really have. Maybe a little, maybe not quite that low, but you can get him fairly cheap in Dynasty, especially because people are trying to get out before the ship completely sinks. So I don't think he's going to cost you what you would expect if they're trying to get out from under him. But if he gets that usage, if he gets back to 20, 25 touches, they said they wanted to get him back to that point. They haven't really done it. This dude could really change your your whole fantasy roster, because he's a guy that can score you 20 points a week.
Potentially,
I mean, we're looking. Let's look at just the last few weeks, right? So 12 carries, 4 targets, 0 receptions. Jared Goff was just horrendous against Pittsburgh, right?
Mhm.
That was just a terrible game. The week before, 10 rushes for 44 yards, 12 rushes for 73 yards. Like, that's all fine. Um, Atlanta, when they played them, he had 19 touches. They're just not giving him the touch. They had 2 weeks there where they had 21 and, 18 and 19. That's that's
Not
where the
enough.
issue's coming from, is that he hasn't, 18, 19. He's just not getting the touches. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, I would agree. So the folks in the chat are asking. Oh, Anthony, our boy Anthony said Gurley or Carry On. I say Carry On, only because I would go with the younger,
This
just as injury prone
this
guy.
is just, for me, it's really team dependent, right? Like, if I'm have a chance to win, I'm taking Gurley every time. Now, if I am not in the running, then there's no way. Like, I think they're both high risk at this point. And I just think that if I have a chance to win a championship, Todd Gurley is a guy that I think could turn that around over the second half of the season, because that team has to do something. They have to change something, and utilizing Todd Gurley more seems to be a good place to start. Because even early in the season, when he was getting more touches, win, 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 then they didn't give him any touches in week 4. They lost. And then last 2 weeks, they beat Cincinnati, but who the hell cares if you beat Cincinnati? Everybody beats Cincinnati. I mean, Evansville Purple Aces will beat Cincinnati. By the way, that was awesome. The Purple Aces beating Kentucky in basketball tonight. I don't.
I did not see that coming. That's for
Yeah, that was awesome. Um, he has only had 18 carries in one game, Aaron. Only one game has he had 18 carries. Um, yeah, so that's just one of them things. Touches equal fantasy points, and the Rams, they have to do something. They have to change something. They have to. And relying on Jared Goff is not working at all. Unless they play. I mean, look at this, right? So they scored 37 against Atlanta. They scored 24 against Cincy. Those are two just horrific teams, right? Like, their defenses are bad. They scored 40 against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's passing defense is bad. Um, Only scored 20 against Cleveland, who I believe at that time were down their top two cornerbacks, and their passing defense was bad. Week 2, they scored 27 against uh, the Saints, and their passing defense did not play well at the beginning of the season. That was the second week. Marshawn Lattimore didn't really turn it on until week 4. So they have to do something different. Okay, so the next topic that we were going to talk about was, do you need, and before we get into this, I want to know what the chat thinks. Do you need fantasy studs to win? I did a little study, went through my leagues that I run and one other league that I'm in. And in those leagues, there's 32 divisions. One of them, 4 of the divisions are 13 team divisions. All the rest of them are 12 team divisions. I went through all of them, and I wanted to look. I wanted to look and see how important having a stud on your roster was, or multiple studs. So before we get into actually talking about the results, I wanted to get people's feedback, just what they're thinking off the top of their head before we get into this. Me and Brad talked about this before, so it was kind of fun to kind of get a thought process before he knew the results of this. But go ahead and drop that in the chat. Anthony says he's not getting touches because of his arthritis. There's arthritis is just a pain thing. He's been fine. He's said a million times he was fine. Um, there's no structural damage. Like, there's no reason they should be limiting his touches if he's fine. He wants the ball. Give him the ball because your offense needs it. That's You're paying him for a reason, and you're paying him a lot of money. Give him the ball. Brad, are you with us?
Yep. I am with you.
Um, the
I am.
the chat's been chatty the whole time, and then as soon as I ask them a question, they're like, "Nee." I'm talking like,
Chirp.
okay, let just throw it out there. CMC. These are the 4 guys that I went through, right? Because we've had the talk, people saying you can't trade CMC. So CMC's one. Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones are the next 2 big fantasy scorers. Um, Brad says, me, I'm the stud. Um, uh, at, at running back. Lamar Jackson was another guy. People saying in the chat that you can't trade Lamar Jackson, even in 1 QB leagues. So I went through, and these are the 4 guys that I did the study on. I am going to do more of this, and I'm going to look and see who exactly is on the most rosters and whatnot. But those are the types of guys that I'm talking about. I wish I would have marked down Michael Thomas when I was doing this, but I only did these 4 guys. So uh, why don't we do this? 32 divisions. How many of those divisions do you think the leading team had Christian McCaffrey on it? Drop your number, 32 divisions. How many of those divisions were led by a team with Christian McCaffrey on their roster? Drop your number in the chat.
Yeah, it's. I can't get behind that notion of somebody's untradeable. Anybody's available for the right price. I'm the $1 million
I
man.
I am with you. I will. There's never an untradeable guy on my rosters. Some of these deals that I see in the chat, it just blows my mind. Type those numbers in the chat, man. You guys have all been chatty the whole time, and now you want to get quiet. Make your guess. Boom. Somebody there. Aaron Justin started it off. We're talking about this year, Paul. Last year's Ova. Ova.
Last
Um,
year.
there we
Oh,
go. Now we go. Aaron Justice started it off for us. Got that pumping. I appreciate it. Uh,
close. These are
oh,
close.
some of them are close. Paul Veldboom, like normal, is way out there. Like, he's way off the radar. Um, okay, so we'll get that moving. So the answer was 11. So Christian McCaffrey is only on the leading roster in about a third of all the divisions in my leagues. And these range, some of them are super flex, some of them are, I think out of the divisions, super flex, I have 8, 9, 13 out of the 29. So I have 19 divisions that are 1 QB and 13 that are super flex because we have a 96 team, a 48 team, and a 12 team super flex. So Paul's making up excuses. I'm trying to do 2 live shows. Yeah, that 24 was way off there, buddy. Anthony and Aaron, you guys were close. Dalvin Cook, second leading scorer at running back, 3. Anthony says, I'm biased, though, because Ray Fryer has CMC and his team sucks. He has been very unfortunate in that league. That is true. Lamar.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook was a surprise for me. I expected Dalvin Cook to be on more rosters just because people were trying to buy him when he was hurt. So that was really a surprise to me that more first place teams didn't have him.
Aaron Jones was on 6, so he was on double the first place rosters as Dalvin Cook. And then Lamar Jackson was on 8, and 7 of those were super flex. So out of 19, what did I say, 19 1 QB leagues, he's only on 1 of the rosters in 1 QB. That shows you how you do not need that quarterback in 1 QB. Like, you don't. But then, it's different when he's on 7 of 13 in Superflex. So you can kind of see the difference. It's just, you do not need these guys. So when you get these crazy trade offers of multiple first round picks plus 2, 3 young players, Emmanuel Sanders is considered day to day with a rib injury. So he will be a game time decision for your week 11 matchup. So tune in Sunday morning. I will be live this Sunday. I was sick this past Sunday. I did not go live. But we'll talk about that Sunday morning. But that news just came in that he is day to day. But, I will say this. I will be straight up with everybody. So I went through all my leagues. I am 50 and 38 overall. I have 2. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 leagues that I'm in. Just 8 of my leagues. I think I'm in 13 leagues, but these are the RotoHeat leagues plus the other 48 or 52 team league I'm in. I am in playoff contention in 6 out of 8. 2 of the other ones are hard rebuilds. I'm 3 and 7 in both of those. So if you take out the rebuilds, I'm 44 and 24. Out of all these, I have 0 Christian McCaffrey. I have 0 Dalvin Cook. And I have 1 share of Lamar Jackson. So 44 and 24 in the ones that I was actually, trying to win in. My worst record out of the rest of the teams is 5 and 5, but the playoff teams right now are at 6 and 4 in that league. So there's, I'm still technically in the hunt, though I'm probably on the outside looking in. I am 3rd or better in half my leagues without any of those guys. And that's kind of me, I feel like I should be transparent about this stuff because of just the fact that I'm giving advice. So if you want to know where I'm standing, this is where I'm at. I don't build my teams around those super studs. I build through depth and consistency with my guys. I have less of the Will Fullers and Boomer Bust type guys where I value the guys, like a John Brown, a guy that he's going to get you 12 points every week. He might not get you 30 very often, but he's going to get you 12. I like the low floor with the upside of 20 to 22 points a game. But when I see some of these trades in our group of basically half a roster for Christian McCaffrey, like that helps your team. That helps your team a lot. Um, any more thoughts on all of that?
No, I mean the truth hurts. It is what it is. You don't need superstars to be a good team. Superstars tend to just make it worse for you. So I would agree.
Um,
Okay.
Paul says, should we insert? I'm sorry for not owning these beautiful players. I mean, would I love to have these guys? Like, I would love to have them, but once you miss on these guys, like the cost to acquire is just too high. Um, I'm not going to spend that capital on those guys. I have a bunch of Aaron Jones, but I've been telling you guys for 2 years that Aaron Jones, given the opportunity, was going to be a monster, and now he's, I think, the third highest scoring running back this year, if I'm correct, behind CMC and Dalvin Cook. Um, and he's been a TD monster. Um, that really that really helps your teams when you get those guys at that price. Um, but like Christian McCaffrey, I'm sorry, the dude's a monster. But if you think that what he's doing now is sustainable for a long enough time not to make some of these moves I'm seeing, you're nuts. You're nuts because he's doing stuff that's never been done before. And what that means is he's going to drop in value.
Absolutely.
All right. If you guys have any questions, that was really what we had on our topics. We'll talk about a little bit more stuff. But if you're on, chatting anywhere, make sure you drop your questions in there, and we will answer them here before we go. We're not going to be on here a lot longer. Brad's got more important stuff to be doing than even being live. Um, but I want to tell people we are actually in the process of coming up with um, some looks at next year's rookies, some early looks,
Mhm.
videos that we will be dropping on YouTube. We are currently getting the format together. We are going to do our research and we are going to look into these prospects, give you an early look. So if you're wondering if you want to keep your draft picks, trade your draft picks, you can do that. Then we will update these players after combine, pro days, and then again after the draft because I know people are always looking into these guys. We're going to get this together. We're going to drop a lot of video content on YouTube. We will probably drop articles on rotoheat.com to go along with these videos and kind of explain where everybody was at. Because I think what we're going to do is use multiple team members to come up with how we're rating these guys so that it's not just Rick's opinion or Brad's opinion, but kind of get everybody's opinion in, and then have multiples of us dropping these videos to kind of give you an idea where we stand on the different 2020 rookies. Um, and then when this season's already wrapping down, it's so weird that it's so close. We are going to be I'm going to be concentrating hard on this trade calculator type trade chart, not calculator, that I'm looking at that is going to incorporate uh, you know rankings. It's going to incorporate ADP, um, and a lot of different stuff to kind of give a value of when people say um, what is Marlon Mack worth, like the chart will tell you like this is the range that Marlon Mack is in, and this is what you should get if you're trading for him, or give up if you're trading for him, or whatever. So we're working on that to release next year once we get ADP going again. Um, questions. Dynasty,
Uh,
rank these four wide receivers in PPR leagues. Excuse me. Devontae Adams, Hill, Godwin, and Evans.
oh,
Adams, Hill, Godwin, or Adams, Hill, Evans, Godwin.
yeah.
You
I
know what?
like.
No,
I'd probably go Adams, Evans, Hill,
that's what
Godwin.
I was getting ready to change. Adam, Evans, Hill, Godwin. Yep,
Oh,
that's where I'm at too. Adams, Evans, Hill, Godwin. Yes, we actually agreed on one, Brad. Um, Paul
I'm surprised Rojo wasn't on that list. He'd have been up there too.
Paul says still waiting on John Emery video. Um,
We'll see. You never
I'm
know.
good at packaging players I believe in mixed with players others believe in that I don't, and getting great players that way. That's Anthony just patting himself on the back. Is Kyle Allen a streaming option this week? Give me a second here, right? Because we can go through this schedule real quick, right? Like, we don't like Baker Mayfield because he plays against Pittsburgh. Um, we don't like Mason Rudolph if we don't have to, just because he's Mason Rudolph. Um, we don't like Detroit quarterback Driscoll playing Dallas. Um,
No.
we've got Brian Hoyer. We don't ever like. uh, we've got Fitzpatrick, who played well against Buffalo the first time, but I don't like playing quarterbacks versus Buffalo. Um, I don't mind Foles or Josh Allen in those games. Denver versus Minnesota, we don't like that quarterback. Right now, we're looking at like a quarterback in each game that we don't really like. Um, Drew Brees, obviously, against Tampa Bay, that's prime, but I would probably sit Winston if Lattimore plays. Lattimore was shutting down Julio Jones before he got injured the other day. Like, Lattimore is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah, he's not. I don't
Um,
think he's playing though. I thought he was.
is he out? I didn't see if he was
I
out,
think he's.
but
I think he's still hurt.
um, Darnold versus Washington we like, but we don't like Haskins ever probably yet. Um, Matt Ryan versus Carolina. I think Kyle Allen versus Atlanta is a fine streamer unless you have like a knockout guy. Atlanta can't, they actually stopped Drew Brees last week, which is weird, but I don't really
That's not normal.
yeah, I don't mind playing quarterbacks against Atlanta, no matter who they are. So I think he's fine. You've obviously got Watson versus Baltimore, Lamar Jackson versus Houston. You're playing both of those guys no matter what. Kyler Murray versus San Francisco might be a questionable start at San Francisco. Um, Cincinnati, who they're starting the rookie again, right? They
Uh-huh.
play
Yeah,
Oakland. Derek Carr is a start versus Bengals. Um,
I'd be a start versus the
Look at
Bengals.
this.
To be
Okay, look
honest
at
with
this
you.
hot mess of a quarterback game, right? Mitch Trubisky versus Jared Goff. What a shit show on Sunday night.
It's gonna be a brutal one.
How did that game not get flexed out? Like, how did they not move like Houston, Baltimore into the Sunday night game? How did they not flex that in
Yeah.
there? That's gonna be fun
I
watching
don't.
Watson and Lamar Jackson.
I don't think flex scheduling starts for another week
Yeah,
or
I
two.
think I think you're
Does it?
right, but like I would have been like,
Yeah. That would suck for them.
that is gross. It's gonna be like a 6-3 game. So dumb. Monday night though, we get some Kansas City, Los Angeles Chargers. I like that. Bye weeks: Green Bay, Tennessee, New York Giants, and Seattle Seahawks. I have a lot of Seahawks. I think I might trade teams to Seattle. I just might quit being a Bears fan. I love Russell Wilson, man. I love Russell Wilson a ton. But yeah. What other questions we got out there? We got any more? Yeah, I don't care if they're allowed to flex. They should have changed the rule last week. They should have been like, "There's no way we can have the Bears Rams and Sunday night prime time.
Yeah.
We got to fix this shit now." I'm sorry. I'm a Bears fan. I watch every
Mm.
game. I didn't get to watch this last one because they is Rick allowed to rank these after saying he doesn't own players that good? What are you talking about? I own good players, but I was just sharing the fact that you don't need any of those guys to win. You don't need any player to win in fantasy football. There's not one player you need to have to be in first place. Um, Brad, you got anything else to add? These guys aren't asking questions. They're just laughing and crying in the chat. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this time of year, don't make any crazy. Be careful with your trades. Um, there's a few leagues that I'm in where guys are sending just an insane amount of trade offers. Just be careful out there, people. I know it's getting close to trade deadlines and we're getting close to playoffs. Um, One thing I did want to bring up. So I have one league that is talking about pushing the trade deadline back, and one of the guys in the league said, "Why don't we just abolish the trade deadline period?"
No.
Have you? So what? How do you feel about that?
Okay. First of all, in Dynasty, I think it should go until we do all our leagues, all my leagues that I run, we do as soon as the Thursday night game starts of the final regular season week. You can't have trades after that when people finally know they're out of the playoffs. Making trades to people that are in the once the playoffs start, you should not be able to add via trade. I think that one, it is unfair, and two, um, it is very dangerous because then there's a lot of collusion situations that can come into effect that you don't need to have in your leagues. Um, I just realized that like the chat has not been working for all of the stuff, so there's some stuff on YouTube I want to answer.
Hmm,
Um,
I know.
Normally it brings in my chats from everywhere, so if we did not answer any of your stuff, I apologize. I should have checked this sooner, but I do want to apologize to everybody that was chatting over on YouTube. And I don't know if we had anybody on Twitch or anything like that. Um, but I'm going to pull that chat up. Uh, I don't remember what I was saying.
Well, we were just talking about moving the
Oh
trade deadline
no,
and what that
so
looks like for.
we do the final week now. Obviously, Thanksgiving is in our 13-week scheduled leagues. Uh, we are doing Wednesday night at 11 p.m. The night before Thanksgiving, so that we don't, uh, so people aren't worried about trading before the Thursday game start on Thanksgiving. But you can't abolish it completely. Um, I don't think. It's my opinion that you can't do that. Are you still there? Or you froze.
People over on the Facebook chat. Paul called out one of my Devi trades I just did with Colin. What people thought about it, so I was adding my flavor to it. Um, this evening, I made a trade with Colin that I won't go into because we haven't done much Devi talk, but so now Paul must not like it. So we are talking
Yeah,
about
but you know what? If Paul doesn't like it, I feel like you're in a pretty good situation.
it. Yeah, but Colin did, so who knows? I'm in the middle of a nexus of crazy.
Okay. Rock out over on YouTube, and I hope you're still here. I apologize. I wish we wouldn't have missed these. What up? Hold up there. He's always coming out for us. Would you drop Goff for Nick
And
Foles or Carson Wentz? Um,
Vince.
I would for either of them in a redraft.
Oh,
In a
yeah,
redraft, I'll
probably.
take Foles or Carson Wentz over him. Um, Rafael Markel says Brady or Garoppolo this week.
Probably Brady.
I'm going Garoppolo against
Oh,
Arizona.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean it should be. He did pretty well against them last.
I mean, Tom Brady just throws it 7 yards every time, 6 yards, just dink and dunk like all the way down the field. It just drives me nuts. I can't do it. Give me somebody that can get a bomb. Debo Samuel for 60 yards. Okay, I need to check Twitch. Did you happen to pull up
Yeah, I don't.
Twitch?
I don't see anything on Twitch. I went over there once you said the chats weren't working.
Okay. Again, I apologize, people. I don't know the different Facebook spots. I'm checking real quick. Obviously, we had it in the redraft group and on the page. Um, I apologize if anybody asked questions and we didn't answer them because that's what we're here for. Um, so we're going to check this out real quick before we hit the. Brad's like, I think Jimmy Garoppolo did okay the last time he played them, and Anthony's like, yeah, he threw 4 touchdowns.
That's okay.
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
I've seen better.
I've seen better. Uh,
Better up his game, Jimmy G.
um, mm, 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 mm. Dude, usually it shows my YouTube stuff, everything right here. I don't know what happened today. Cool, nobody chatted there, so I didn't ignore anybody there. RotoHeat.
Awesome.
It's pretty. I like when it's all consolidated anyway. Um,
True story.
Paul's he's pushing Anthony to get into an IDP league.
Nice.
Gotta see that. Gotta see that.
We should make a reality TV show, Anthony and IDP.
Right?
Let's see.
Cool. It all worked out. We're good. Um, any last minute questions? We're gonna do this for real this time. I'm pulling YouTube back up, and we are going to answer any questions. Again, I apologize to anybody that we didn't respond to. Anthony says he's very, very.
Nice.
He says no, not doing it, not getting into
Oh,
IDP.
his next statement is he said he'd co-own an IDP team with me. So
There you go. There you go. That's a good way to do
that's
it.
it. We should get T-shirts made.
We are. I'm starting one league next year, I think, and it depends on how much interest we get, but we might do like a 48 teamer, kind of like the super flex we started last year, but with IDP. Um, if not, man, I have too many bets out there. What the fuck? I don't even remember what our bet was.
Hmm.
People, I think right now, I mean, people could just be like, Rick, I think I'm winning our bet. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm losing another one?
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's right or not.
Yeah.
I
I
believe this
paid a
is
lot of bets.
the I believe this is the Montgomery versus Jacobs. That I thought that was with Kevin Pons though. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know what.
You owe him $50 too.
uh, $50 everywhere. Thanks, Nagy, you piece of shit.
Hey, I'm still holding that David Montgomery share tight as I can get because I love Dave Montgomery.
Oh, I'm fine with David Montgomery long term. Yeah, okay, that was Jacobs versus Monty. I might have to get a buyout. How far are they off right now? Monty had a couple good weeks. He ran fine last week. He just didn't get enough touches. Um, Jacobs though. Jacobs. Funny thing is that neither of them have been used right. But uh,
Jacobs getting love,
at least,
at least a little
yeah,
bit.
at least they've been winning more than the Bears, so they've utilized their running back a little bit more. So I probably will lose, but luckily we have what the Bears have 8 games, 6 games, 7 games left. So
Yeah, season's
hopefully,
almost over.
hopefully Montgomery just goes ham the rest of the year, and that would be nice. It's the same thing in Chicago with like the Rams. Like, why are you relying on Trubisky? Give Montgomery the freaking ball, please.
Yeah, they should be running it considerably more than they pass it. I mean, like it should be more like 65 or 70% of it should be running where,
Yeah.
because you have to cut. I mean, if you're not going to change your quarterback out, then you have to cover up for him being a buffoon.
Oh, so 10 game minimum. How many has Jacobs played? Because he missed a couple, didn't he? Or did he miss just one?
I think it's just one. I don't think he missed much. Uh,
So my best bet to win this game is for Josh Jacobs to only play 9 games. Oops, snapped a hammy. He's out.
yeah, he missed week 6.
How many games has he played then?
He's been in 9 so far.
He's played 9 so far?
Yeah, he's been in 9 games
So
so
they
far.
haven't had their bye week yet.
Their bye weeks this week, I think.
Was it? No, because Carr's a
I
start.
could be wrong.
They're playing
Oh yeah,
Cincy.
Cards start.
That's
Yeah,
not
maybe he's.
good.
I don't know when his bye week is then.
Oops, he just
Maybe week 6 was their bye. Maybe he's
no,
just not
he's
listed here because that's his bye.
no, he missed a game. I know he sat out one because remember he was sick, and they talked about him losing a bunch of weight.
Yeah. Mm. He's
Yeah.
been in 9 games and he started 9 games and he's already at 811 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he's got 132 yards receiving. Well, that's a 1,000-yard rusher right
Okay.
there.
Let's look up. So it's fantasy. It's points per game. That's what he said here. Let's just look at the points per game difference here. 1 through 10, 2019 running backs. I could have swore he sat out a game because he was sick and he lost a bunch of weight, but maybe I'm wrong.
He must not. Week 6 was their bye week, so they were off that week.
Huh.
So yeah, he must have.
Um,
He must
Jacobs averaging 16.7. Montgomery's way behind.
have.
He needs to make up 5 fantasy points per game real quick.
Ooh. Yeah, that might be a little bit
We did
overcome.
50? I did 50 on that? Damn. Looks like I'm paying for your whatever league you're in. Oh, you're only in the $22 league, so that doesn't work either. Awesome. I love losing bets, and I'm losing them everywhere.
You were drinking the Kool-Aid, that's all.
Well, no. I mean, the usage has been terrible. I mean, from a well, I mean, we can look this up. I didn't update it this week, but let's just look how they compare on a points per touch basis. Load, load, load. Just curious, like how they compare in that sense. I have a feeling Jacob's got quite a bit more touches. Okay, Jake. Josh Jacobs, zero point 0.8 fantasy points per touch. This was before last week. I don't have week 10 in there. Montgomery, 0.77. They're like right there together on a point per touch basis.
Unfortunately, Monty's not getting any
Right.
touches.
All right. We didn't get any more questions there. Let's see if YouTube had any more questions. Yeah, it was Anthony. It was 0.3 points off of each other. All right. We are going to call it a day. Brad, I want you to have safe travels. Um, Sunday morning, I will be live this week. I will not. I will not be sick. I demand that I'm not sick. So,
Oh, work out.
right now, I'm definitely sick as shit for sure. Um,
Like you just traded for yourself in fantasy.
right.
Going down.
So Sunday morning from 10 to noon Eastern Standard Time, we'll be talking inactives, start sits. That's the best time. You know, a lot of people ask us on Tuesday, Wednesday. We don't know what's going to happen this week. So tune in for, that Sunday morning. Brad, why don't you tell them the rest of the stuff we got going on?
All right. So, needless to say, RotoHeat.com is your place. We've been putting up content on a weekly basis. The guys are still updating our rankings on a regular basis. That's kind of the hub for everything that you will want to see. There's also links there to get to our YouTube page, get to our Discord chats, our Facebook groups. I mean, all the places that you can talk to us and interact with us, rotoheat.com is where you get that from. So make sure you go there. If anybody's watching this at some point, you're interested in jumping into fantasy sports writing of some sort, shoot our man Rick over there a message as well. Great way to get your feet wet if you're interested and jump in with some great writers. We have an awesome team of guys that are very helpful for each other and encouraging and tend to have each other's back on a regular basis, which is nice. I appreciate the guys having my back this week with me being gone. That's what we do here at RotoHeat. So check us out. You've seen on here our Twitter handles. At RotoHeat Fantasy is the main Twitter handle, and we pump out information on the Twitters as well. So we hope to talk to you guys. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us all season. It'll be fun to wrap it up strong and then get back to what we all enjoy, which is talking draft and getting ready for our drafts next year.
I agree. Make sure you get in our groups. If you want to join fantasy leagues next year, make sure you get on our groups, whether it's Dynasty, Redraft, whatever. We are going to be doing a lot more stuff next year, so make sure you get in there, and we will see you on Sunday morning.
Later.